All right, welcome to another episode of Investing with Quito. Here I have my Saturday co-host here, Jeremy. Jeremy, how are you this morning?
We're well. We're tired, but we're thriving. So it's going well.
Awesome. I just want to say I appreciate our morning conversations, right? I mean, the things we're learning, we're both entrepreneurs on our journey, just learning along the way, and just really glad that you're here, you're sharing your story, and it's fun, kind of watch each other grow. So yeah,
Oh man,
so
it's so much
let's
fun. Yeah, I love
yeah.
this.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's just kind of share because I know our last episode we kind of teased about some challenges that happen, and so why don't you go ahead and kind of share your story?
Okay. So with entrepreneurship comes a lot of benefits. I think some of the best benefits are like me and my wife get to work together. That's fantastic. We get a lot of freedom, flexibility. We have a common dream of doing things and going forward to things that are really exciting. And our kids get to do it with us, which we love. So we have a whole family unit going forward in business. So all that stuff is positive, and we have control of our financial future, and we have more opportunity. So all that stuff is wonderful. And people should engage in entrepreneurship if they have the bug for it. But as a caution warning, there's lots of stuff that can hinder you and a lot of problems that come up. And we're just going to share one of them this week. So, as you know, Keto, me and my wife bought a business in Billings. It's monkey around, got it on creative finance, seller finance, and it's been doing well, growing. And an opportunity came around where someone came in. They said, "Hey, we got another one of these up in Shelby, Montana, which is 5 hours away, north of Great Falls." And they're like, "Would you like to buy it?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" We got it for a screaming deal, creatively on seller finance. I mean, we were literally paying like $300 a month for all the equipment, the business, everything. It was great, and we got a lease with the previous owner who owned the building. And so we opened up in December 1st, and it was got great employees up there. It was slow, but it was gaining traction. And just this last week, we got a call from a guy we met up there. And he's like, "Hey, are you guys okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're fine. What's up?" He's like, "Well, your building's on fire." And we're like, "What? No way. Like, that is not good." So we called our manager. She's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "I don't know. I'm here too." And so it's a pretty small town. And on Main Street, where we were, there we had us, a liquor store next to us over here, a salon, and then a coffee shop, and then a breakfast restaurant. And so the salon caught on fire. There's some kind of electrical shortage,
Wow.
and caught some oil or something in there, and it just blazed up. So the whole area is torched. The fire blew out the back of the unit into the alleyway, and we didn't know like what's going on. How is our stuff okay? So after reviewing it, and the insurance adjusters up there, we're seeing that there's tons of smoke damage in there. It just smells like smoke, because both of them were like not fully disconnected. You could still hear and see stuff from the other side. So a lot of smoke came over to our side, and the firemen had to break through our window. So they broke through our windows and our doors to get to the fire on the other side because it was too hot. So least to say we're closed, right? We're closed up there now, and we're looking to see like, okay, can we open? What are the feasibilities of opening? What could we do? What should we do? What can we do? And so, as an entrepreneur, trying to make those decisions and being like, okay, what is the next best thing, and what can we do? So that's basically the story. Just up in flames. We only opened like a month and a half.
Wow.
Um, so
That's crazy. So speaking of insurance, okay, so how does that work with the business, right? So, smoke damage, is the insurance gonna cover the equipment? So what are they gonna cover for you as, as the business, right?
well, nothing because we don't have insurance on it.
Oh,
So that's another
gotcha.
problem with business ownership. You need insurance, but
Mhm.
our quotes were substantially outrageous because of the industry we're in. People around the other parts of the states were doing soft play pop-ups
Hmm.
and have a lot of kids get hurt. So bad regulations, bad equipment.
Mm.
So all the insurance companies are seeing this, and they totally just put a kibosh on all that kind of industry, even bounce houses, even if it's inside and anchored and has all the right appropriate safety measures, they
Hmm.
just don't care, and insurance is through the roof. So we
Wow.
were we were waiting to the first of the year to get insurance on both our locations because we got finally found someone who would insure us for appropriate amount that we could afford, and then that happened. So
Wow.
non-insured. Fortunately, since our the previous owner owns the building, she has insurance covered, so the building's not on us, so we don't own the building outright, so it's on her.
Hmm.
And what I think is happening, hopefully she doesn't see this, is that she wants to cancel the promissory note we had with her for the
Hmm.
business. So it's $10,000 promissory note, 5 years, 5%, $300 a month. And she's like, well, let's just cancel that, act as if it never happened. Because I think she still has that former business under her insurance policy
Hmm.
and is going to claim insurance money on that. So she's
Oh.
actually ahead out of it. And then we can just cancel our contract. And she's like, I'll just give you all the stuff in it because you bought it for $500 and we'll just close it. So
Hmm.
we're actually out, like we're ahead. And so
Okay.
for us personally, we're actually ahead now because we don't have to pay employees up there, no more
Hmm.
marketing up there, no more trips up there. So we're actually financially ahead in this spot because it just was cost us money as we're trying to build it.
Hmm.
Um, and now we don't have potentially don't have a contract even to pay off for equipment that we
Right.
might have to pay to fix. Because the
Hmm.
solution for smoke damage is like going to like faithful restoration and having them air it out with ozone things, and maybe you get the smoke out, right? So we might just
Right.
be out the money, but um, yeah, it's working out for us because if it was our main location in Billings, that'd be devastating, right?
Right.
That would be all of our income. But since it was another location, it was actually costing us money to be up there to start out.
Hmm. So what's your future like moving forward in that location? So are you gonna like, okay, we're done. Maybe this was not something we actually wanted. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Like, okay, well, you know, so what are your thoughts with that? And what do you see there,
Well, the
that
option
second
we had
location?
a couple options. Yeah, that's a great question. Like the question is like, what do we do next? What are the options, and how do we move forward? What's the wisest decision? So for us, since we're still starting out and we're still trying to be wise with our capital, invest in Billings and then invest in Shelby, the first option was we could just close down completely, shut it down, close the business, leave. That might be what we do, but we still love the community up there. So the second option might just be say like put the things on pause and reevaluate next winter or around that time because there's other shops and locations that could potentially be a good fit. But with our model, we need a party room, we need enough space, we need certain things. And if we got a building, we'd have to invest to make those things happen. And in Shelby, since it's so small, like contractors are at a premium, and time takes 6 months out to 9 months out. So it's a long, long time. And so
Hmm.
we couldn't afford the capital to do that. So that's probably not the best option. Um, and then the other option is just wait and see and just like take the stuff, um, build relationships up there still and see how we can help the community and do stuff like that, or maybe do pop-ups once in a while or events. So that might be another option. But potentially going forward in the summer, we might take over another indoor play area, and that's in Great Falls. Actually, I shouldn't be saying that. Never mind. Uh, Potential to do another one, and Great Falls is an hour
Okay.
away. Great Falls is an hour away from Shelby. Um,
Okay.
so it was like it also the positive thing of this is we might get the contract removed and be ahead. But another good lining is that we learned that opening another location far away is not as hard as it seemed. So it
Hmm.
really gave us the
Okay.
confidence to actually like, hey, we could actually do this. We could actually open more locations if we just get the right people and we're up there and we learn how to like what our business model is about up there. Like we can do that a lot more. So actually give us more confidence. Be like, yeah, let's open another location. Let's start
Hmm.
looking at places in the heights. Let's actually like start moving and making a system and like planning the future for the next couple of years of more locations. So it gave us
Right.
confidence to do that.
So yeah, so I guess that's a silver lining because you've gone through that process. Because like you, I mean, most of my investing is here locally in town. I haven't branched out like to other parts of the country. Right? It's like,
Mhm.
hey, everything's good here. Um, but not to say that I wouldn't go outside, right? But
Right.
just like you have your base in Billings, but then you went out 5 hours away, started putting systems there. So you've kind of got the taste. So it's like, oh, okay, well, this is not as bad as I thought. Right.
Yeah, it's really not. So they gave us confidence, be like, everyone said like, how are you going to run it? You're so far away. What are you going to do? Is like, well, you find good people, and we got blessed with
Hmm.
good people, and that's wonderful. And we really probably the worst part of it is we're losing our a really good manager. she got the vision. She was like all in. She was taking ownership. She was doing stuff that we didn't ask her to do, and she was
Hmm.
taking initiative. So like we really miss her, and she was going to be a great asset. So really, that was probably the most unfortunate thing. We can't move her somewhere else. So
All right. So she's kind of just there locally. So
yes, yes,
yeah.
yep,
Okay. Yeah, you just have to find another one of her in your next location.
yeah. Just find another one of those people. They're out there. I
Yeah.
mean, good people are out there. You just have to find them and be a leader to attract them. I think, um,
Right.
because this wasn't like our job is not like the most. It's a pretty simple job. It doesn't pay the most, but we found people who loved that idea, that mission that we had. So we had to buy them into the mission and be a leader and lead them
Hmm.
in that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunate that you had a fire. At the same time, there was some, you've learned along the way. And that's the thing, like, sometimes as an entrepreneur, right? We got to understand we're gonna go through like you mentioned earlier. I mean, there's gonna be some challenges, right? And honestly, as great entrepreneurship could be, it's not for everybody, right? Because not everybody can stomach though what entrepreneurs go through, and that's okay, right? That is
Mhm.
completely okay. If you're happy with your 9 to 5, great, right? And I think sometimes when we look at like social media, you see all these entrepreneurs just really just showing the highlight of, it looks really sexy, right?
Yeah.
But we know like down deep, like those are, going through the process. I mean, it's work. I mean, it's a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of uncertainty,
hmm
right?
hmm
So yeah, it's not for everyone, but not to say that you couldn't do it, right? I'd encourage like if that's what you want to explore, go, but like don't quit your day job, right?
Right.
And just build it on the side like I mean, you have a full-time job, right?
Yep. Yeah. So
And
I have a full-time job. I'm in a master's program, uh, and we open a business, right? And we have 2 kids, so we're just in the thick of it.
right.
But when I went to community camp at Pace Morby's, the Jerry Norton had a great like little image for that. Is like when you start out in entrepreneurship, you're at like a level 1 in your confidence level and your fear of risk level, and as you move and do another thing, you might move to level 2. And when you start doing that, you start to get outside your comfort zone, and everything's just terrifying. Even for Jerry, like he was talking about, he bought a hotel in uh what's that place? Puerto Rico. Bought a hotel in Puerto Rico. And he's like, I've never bought a hotel before. I've never been in Puerto Rico before. And he, even with $1 million net worth and has flipped hundreds of homes, he's like, I'm terrified. Right. So even if you grow in your levels of entrepreneurship and you're a multimillionaire, you do new projects, you're outside your comfort zone, you still get those sleepless nights. So it
Hmm.
never goes away, which is
Right.
comforting. And also, it's like, okay, well, everyone's experiencing this. It's going to be normal. You really have to just push through it and just figure it out, honestly.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely how you learn, right? It's you learn through getting uncomfortable. Like I always tell people, like get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable because that's
Right.
going to be the process, especially entrepreneurship. There's a lot of you're going to really push yourself. You're going to be there's lots of unknowns, right?
hmm
But
hmm
at the same time, there's great rewards, right?
Right.
And so, but as long as you have that belief in yourself and you're passionate about what you're doing, like take that step. Just go for it. Right. But don't quit your day job and just jump ship. Like, plan it out. Right. I,
Yeah.
I look, I look back in my own career because, I was an engineer and then I, and I was making decent money as an engineer and I,
Yeah.
I got into real estate and I was making good money in real estate. And what I did was I jumped full time. I mean, I quit like cold turkey from being an engineer because I saw how much money I was making in real estate. It's like, okay, well then I'll just quit. So I did that, and fortunately it worked out for me. But I tell you what, it was not easy. It was
hmm
not easy. I think in hindsight, had I just stuck with my engineering job, continue to work that, because it wasn't a bad career, right? But then at the
Yeah.
same, really start building a good foundation to the point where, uh, especially if you're investing in real estate and just building some cash flow, get to a point where you have enough, where you could basically have the option to continue to quit or work. So in hindsight, I think I would have been better off doing that, and probably would have built it quicker that way, versus
Really?
because in entrepreneurship you have your highs and your lows, especially if you're, in real estate, especially in real estate sales or whatever. Your income goes like this, like this, like this, right? So, but if you have a steady income coming in, right, anything you build is just going to go up from there, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Steady. So then your income wouldn't like drop below where your baseline was. So I think in hindsight, that's what I would encourage people to do. If you have a full-time job and then you want to explore investing or explore other entrepreneurship, start building that on the side. Like work
Hmm.
your 9 to 5, and then you work your 5 to 9, right? Which
Hmm.
is working on the thing that you're passionate about. Just continue to build this because it's a long game, right? Like for you, you've got your business. You're thinking, okay, you're not just going to do this for like 1 or 2 years. Like you have a long plan. It's like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm gonna open up other, locations. So it's a longer play for you.
Hmm. And I'd recommend if you do that, just be ready for the suck and the hard. Because I heard this saying is like, you remember when uh, you say like this entrepreneurship is going to be hard, and then there's days where like our kids are sick, we're sick, no one's our employees call out sick, or we don't have any sales of the business, uh, we're feeling terrible, and like other things in life just hit you. We're like, oh, this is what hard feels like. Like that
Mhm.
moment when you're like, this is so hard. It's like, oh yeah, that's what hard feels like. And you have to just push through it, and then you get some good sleep, then you have another day, and you try to figure it out. And so
Mhm.
you're doing that, and just be ready for the hard. Just remember, like that's normal. If you're building two things, it's
Right.
normal for it to be hard. Because I'm sure
Yes.
you've experienced that too, right? As you're getting going, like there's the
Yes.
ramp up is always harder than like the. It seems like for you, and tell me if I'm wrong. It's like when you push through that barrier, and then you now where you are now, you're still growing, but there's like more of this ease, or like you get the momentum. Is that a better word
Right.
for
Yeah. I
pushing
mean,
through?
yeah. Once you go through that suck and it's tough, right? And then you do get to a point where it feels a bit easier, but then as you and then you grow again, so you go through another phase of it sucks, right? But it's always continuing, like you're always stepping up. So each phase you're going through, it's always going to be another phase because you're always going to be learning and growing along the way, right? I I
Hmm.
think I think if you feel like you get to a point you're just like stagnant, that's a bad place to be, right? Because I
Right.
mean it's just it's life doesn't get exciting, it gets bored, right? As humans, I think it's kind of ingrained in us to look for challenges, to look for things to go. That's what helps us grow, right? There was a study they did. Well, that's why when they studied with bees, right? They took the bees off because they flap the wings. I forget how many times, but they flap a lot. But when they go out in space and they're not flapping, they die sooner, right?
Really?
Because they're not working. And that's the same thing with humans. I think if we're not challenging ourselves, we don't live that long a life. And it kind of reminds me another study when they did with people who retire, right? It's kind of
Hmm.
strangest thing.
Yeah.
Like people work till like they're 60, they think, okay, when I retire, life is going to be good. But then within 5 years, they die,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
They just like, what? You mean you worked all your whole life and then you think you're gonna enjoy, but once you get to the end of the road, like you die sooner because they don't really have a sense of purpose, right? Because
Hmm.
if they're working every day, they feel like they got purpose going on. But then once that is gone, and they're getting older, that fades away. So they die. I thought that was an interesting study.
Yeah.
So
I've seen it a lot with older people, and so never. Uh, you always cannot work, but never not do something. We're just made
right,
to work, and so if
absolutely.
I've heard the equation of like motivation equals finding your purpose, so what you're really good at, plus working in your gifts, so expending energy in a right way that energizes you, times time, small habits over time, and that equals motivation to actually keep on going, to do something new, to take a new adventure. And so you always have to find something you're good at. You have a mission and purpose for it, and then just slowly build on top of it over time. And that if
Right.
you lose your motivation or your hope or your dream, it really does slow you down.
right.
exponentially.
And that's the thing about entrepreneurship too, because there's really like no retirement. Like I don't think that I would just stop what I'm doing, just retire, like not do anything, because we're always, pushing. And with like a traditional job, you get to the point where the company no longer needs you, right? And they say,
Right.
okay, take your severance pay, you can, you know, retire, give you your golden handcuffs or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or your watch, whatever they give you. Um, but as an entrepreneur, we're always, if we like what we do, we have that passion. We just keep going. I tell my wife, like, I'm not gonna stop doing this till the day you know, till the Lord calls me home, right? I'm still,
Yeah.
I'm still gonna be, I'm still gonna be at it, find ways to contribute, just do things because that gets me excited.
Yeah.
Right. I remember, um, not too long ago when I first hit my financial freedom number, right? It was exciting. It's like, okay, great. I I made it, right? Like, okay, this is great. And then I think within like about a week, I felt kind of lost, right? It's like, okay, what do I do now? Right?
Yeah.
What do I do now? So I had to refocus, right? I mean, it's not like that I had millions of money, it was just at that time,
Yeah.
where at the stage, my financials like, okay, I've got enough that will sustain me, right? And then I was like, okay, is this it? So I really had to find, because I knew I wasn't going to stack. I just didn't really have a plan kind of beyond that at that time, right? It's
hmm
like, okay, I was
hmm
just focused. I want to just get to that number, but I didn't plan, like, okay, once you get the number, what's next, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. We should have Logan Manzanares on. He talks about like make money, multiply money, make money matter, like that kind of phase.
right,
Like
yes,
you want to make money matter at the end of it when you have all
Ye-
that stuff done. Yeah, you want to do something.
yes. We'll have to get him on here.
Yeah,
When he
that sounds
decides
fun.
that. Yes, I know he's in Arizona right now,
Lucky guy.
so it's nice. He gets to travel in the winter. He's down in a nice warm place, and when it gets too hot up there, he comes up. So it's like that's so it's a great place to be. So
hmm
that's something I'm working towards as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Keto, how about you? I know we talked about this is like we both had two fire incidents. So what's your
yeah.
fire story and how did you
Oh,
overcome it?
my
What problems
fire
did you have?
story. This is crazy. So, as you know, when I was buying properties, I bought a lot of dump homes, right? Homes that are just in disarray. So I bought this property, and a- and I'm at this time in my life, I was still acquiring like properties left and right. So I mean, I had a bunch of properties, and so one of the properties is I knew it needs some work, and so when I bought it, we paid cash for it, so there was no loan or anything on it, and but I figure, it's a project, we will get to it. And long story fast forward, right? I get a call from my property manager say, Keto, your property's on fire. It's like, at that time I figure, okay, well, that's probably a good thing, right? It's like, well, I know this is an old house. Okay, well, maybe it's not so bad, right? So the insurance will cover it, right? So anyway, the next day, I did call my insurance guy and say, hey, um, what do I do in a situation where there's a fire? She goes, what's the property address? I give him the property address, and he looks through it, and it's not insured. So I was like, oh man. And at first I was upset with him. It's like, how could you let this be? Right. I mean, just like microseconds, right? I was thinking, like,
Yeah.
how could this happen? But I had to look back. It's like, you know what? It's my fault. You know, it was my fault for not. And then that's the thing too, like, as an entrepreneur, we have to take responsibility for whatever happens, right? Like, don't
hmm
put blame on
hmm
other people. It's like, it was my fault because I was under assumption that everything that every property I have is insured, and that my insurance guy that I work with should have known about this property
hmm
and should have got it insured, right? So I was kind of
Yeah.
at that time, just leaving it on, his responsibility. But really, at the end of the day, it's my responsibility,
Hmm.
right? It's my
Yeah.
responsibility to make sure, okay, all these properties that I have, let's go down each one of them. Is it insured? Is it insured? So that kind of it was a wake up call for me. As
Hmm.
busy as we get, like doing things, we have to make sure that our basic necessity is being followed, right? Because I was
Right.
just like I was buying three, four, five properties a month, right? Just kept acquiring properties, and this one, because I think, okay, I'm gonna work on it later, and it was during the winter time, and fortunately, the fire only affected like one part of the house, right?
Hmm.
And the property was vacant. So, and what happened was, say, some squatter was there and started fire to keep warm.
Yeah.
And it ended up costing. I looked at like the damage. It was an additional $10,000 that I didn't account for when I was going to do the rehab, because I was going to rehab it anyways, right? It's like, oh, well,
Hmm.
there's some more damage that I didn't account for. But had I had it insured, that property would have been redone, less money
Hmm.
out of my pocket, right? So
Right.
so now I just have to spend more money, and that was a big lesson. Is like you just have to be responsible, and just make sure that if you have talk about insurance, right? Make sure you got insurance on your property. So
Yeah. So is there a silver lining for you here? Like, I know you learned like ownership, but is there like what's happening now with it? Is there silver lining, a benefit, or is it
and
just a learning lesson?
it's just that for me, just that lesson, like, just make sure you follow up, especially on the insurance, and make sure that I board up as much as I board up the property, because typically my property manager, they'll drive around the various different properties, make sure that there's no squatters or things like that. Because we have at least in Billings, there's um, some challenges with people squatting. I mean, especially in the neighborhood that I buy in. Because would you
Mhm.
say like South Side is more like what, like a C or D property?
Yeah, I know that Southside has always been a hard area ever since Billings like they started doing stuff. I know there's a ministry called CLDI in the Southside that's really trying to
Hmm.
like buy properties, rehab them, rent them out to people who can't
Right.
afford them, and like even building coffee shops and like new event spaces down there. So they're really trying to get in and like fix it up, but still there's so much work to be done. And
Hmm.
even since it's close to downtown, so the South Side and then the North Side, it seems like is really just a hub for transients, homeless
Hmm.
people, rough crowds. A lot of the murders and fortunately, like crime is down there.
Yeah,
So it's
it's
just
it's
that
crime.
type of area.
Yes, it is. Speaking of crime, the property next door, right, to my fourplex, somebody literally got killed, literally like
Ugh,
probably about a month ago, and there was like cops all over the place. I think it was even in the news too,
wow.
and that was like next to my property, and my tenants called me up. It's like, hey, we've got SWAT team over here, we can't get out. It's like, oh, okay, great, but it's just this one house, and I mean, he's got you know, people going in and out, just doing drugs. And
Dang.
so, but yeah, so I mean, it is a challenging part of town. But
Right.
at also too, I see that, for me, is there's also opportunities, right?
Hmm.
Because I buy in those neighborhoods, I fix up those homes, and then I rent it out, and just slowly, I mean, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of new construction too that's happening in that area.
Hmm.
So I see it slowly turning, because I'm in this for the long run. And the truth is, like, the rents that I get is actually decent for the price I pay for the home, right? Because
Hmm.
what I pay for them, I'm always looking for the cash flow, right?
Right. Yeah.
Compared to the other parts of the nicer parts of town, I end up paying more, but my cash flow is actually less than what is over there. Because, obviously, it's kind of risk and reward. It's a higher risk, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you get the high reward. But I do my best to screen it out. There's one property that I have in particular that I'll be honest, I have a lot of people that are like pre-release,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because those guys have a hard time finding a place, and not all of them are like bad, right? I mean, they're coming out, they did their time, they're trying to, assimilate in society, turning over a new leaf. So I do give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out and sometimes not so much.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I had one guy where I took pre-release and he was good for like 3 months and got himself back in trouble and now he's back in jail. So I've got his girlfriend told me, so now I get to take the property back.
Mm.
So, a risk and reward. So you just gotta do your best to screen them the best that you can. And, I do like to give people second chances.
Hmm.
And that's just, it's how it goes. They need a place to stay.
Yeah.
And you just got to give somebody an upper hand sometimes.
I agree. It's hard for us. It's hard to find that distinction because we did that with one person, and we were really worried. And it seemed like to go forward, like it was really a bad decision, but actually it's turned out very well. They're taking care of it. They like it, and it's been good. So that can happen. You can give people a second chance, and it does
Hmm.
work out well. It's just trying to be discerning of like, all right,
Right.
how much risk can I tolerate? Am I
Hmm.
strong? Can I be strong in enforcing the rules for this person, these people? Got to be careful of that.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like, for the most part, I would say like probably like 85% of the time they work out, for me.
It's
So
pretty good. I mean, that's a
it's
pretty good
just,
return.
yeah, yeah, it's just the 15%, but I get them out quickly and they don't fight it, right?
Hmm.
So, well, yeah. And also too, like, because some of the my properties, some of them are still work in progress. And so they're more willing to rent those kind of properties. I'll be honest, like, hey, this is not the no Holiday Inn or the Hilton, right? This is it. I'm working on this. I have lots of other, rentals that I'm, working. And that's the thing, like, when you're investing in real estate and you have like multiple property, I mean, you've got you really have like money like spread out all over the place, right? They think,
Hmm.
you have lots of
Hmm.
money. Like most of my money is out, it's out in these projects that I'm working on because I'm taking the money and I'm sinking it back into the property,
Hmm.
right? I'm
Hmm.
not taking the profits and sitting on the beach, right?
Right.
I'm taking the profits, putting it back into the other properties that do need work. So,
Hmm.
to better the neighborhood. And sometimes it's a nice feeling because I'll get neighbors who like say, hey, they see me, at the site, like, are you the owner? I said, yes. And they would say, thank you so much for coming in. And you did more in the last 3 months than the last 30 years that the previous owner had owned this property. So it's kind of nice that, one property at a time that I'm, making a difference in the neighborhood. So
Hmm. Hmm. That's great. That's wonderful. It really does make your money matter, right? And
yeah,
doing
yeah,
something.
it does. It's a good feeling to know that I'm making a difference. So
Yeah. Well, especially like for you, it seems that for both of us, right? If we have that vision of like, this is where we want to go, this is where we are, like you're shooting for that goal. And then every step, every hurdle, like it becomes much more manageable if you know exactly where you're going. For you, it's like, no, one bad tenant, a couple bad tenants, doesn't really matter. I'm here to long term and like these things are gonna make me money for a long time. And like I'm not gonna
mhm.
go anywhere. So I'm really gonna reinvest here and be here for the long term. And then if a fire or a bad tenant comes around, you're like, that doesn't really matter, right? I can get over that,
Right. Yeah.
right?
And speaking of fire, I had the opposite happen to me last week. It was a flood. And it was after our conversation we had,
Uh-huh.
and so I get a call probably a couple hours later, and what had happened was there was a a, um, a leak. There was a leak, and we actually fixed the leak, right? And then I told my property manager, like, hey, why don't you, my maintenance guy's like, Lynn, why don't you come back the next day? This was on a Friday, come back the next day and just clear out the basement area because there's a lot of junk. And I haven't been there for like a couple of years since I bought the property. So I like, when I see like, oh man, this doesn't need a lot of work. Can you just get somebody just, grunt work just to clear the all that junk off the basement more
Hmm.
like cellar area. That's where they have the water heater and the furnace.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so so anyway, so we got the it was a hose going to the water heater was it was there's a crack and it was leaking. So we got that fixed. And then said, okay, well, why don't you come back next day, just kind of clear it all out. So he goes there thinking we're gonna clear this thing out. Oh, but there's a flood. Well, what had happened was through the night, there was another line that broke that went into the back house, right? And upstairs they didn't know because they were still getting water and things like that.
Hmm.
And then so it fled like 4 feet. And I think I've on my I posted on my reel in a Facebook, but it was high. It took us, about 3 hours, two pumps going on with a hand bucket,
Wow.
just just getting the water out. So we had to replace the water heater and the furnace. I'm waiting for it to all dry out before we fire it back up. So
Uh,
I'll know probably within the next day or so. It's been almost a week now since it's dried, so I'll see. Because I just gave the tenants like, here's a portable heater, will keep you warm. At least they got water and they got heat. So,
hmm.
but yeah, so
Dang.
that was a learning thing for me. Like I thought I had it, when it comes to winter, I thought I winterize it,
Hmm.
but I didn't do that good of job because there's some opportunities for me to do a better job of winterizing, my pipes and whatnot. So.
Yeah, you always learn, always learning as a
Yep,
if you
always
want,
learning.
if you don't want to be an
Always learning.
entrepreneur, you gotta love learning. You gotta love doing
Yes.
things different.
Yep. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, thanks for, I really love our Saturday conversations because, because you're sharing your journey, I'm sharing my journey, and we're learning together. And so that's cool. And I
Yeah.
encourage, people that are viewing this, if they have questions about entrepreneurship or questions about investing, post, make a comment, and
Yeah.
I'll do my best to get to it because this YouTube stuff is still kind of new for me. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Put our Instagram and like Facebook stuff down there and like just DM us or comment on us and reach out to us if you want some help with something. Or if you're like, hey, I really want a first deal, like we'll love to help you with that.
yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
See you later.